everybody. This is your explainer video, brief explainer video on each of the different types of laws. So just so you know, the purpose of this is so that you will be able to identify different types of laws when given a description of a situation. And it's also a reminder that all of this comes from the idea of the rule of law, the notion that everyone is equal under the law, that no one is above the law. All these different types of laws exist to form this umbrella, this protection that is above everybody's head, regardless of their gender, their sexuality, their gender expression, their race, their ethnicity, the amount of money they do and don't have. Everybody is going to be treated equally and given equal protection under the law. And so let's get right into it. There are 5 different basic types of laws. The first type of law is civil law. Simply put, civil law is the type of law that is used to settle arguments and disagreements between people. Typically lawsuits. This is what this type of law looks like. So you've got 2 people that get into a car accident. There's an argument as to how much the person who caused the accident should pay or whether they should have to pay at all. Civil law is used to settle that dispute. So you can think of Captain America Civil War. There was a civil war between Iron Man on the one hand and Captain America on the other, and they were having an argument. They were having a dispute. So civil law is used to settle those types of disputes. Criminal law is probably the type of law that comes to your mind the most and the most frequently. This is crimes, punishments associated with those crimes, so things like murder, things like robbery, kidnapping, things of that nature. These are all crimes, and these are punishable by going to jail. And that's kind of the basic difference between civil law and criminal law. In civil law, it ends up being most of the time that the person is going to have to pay some money. On the other hand, in criminal law, sometimes you'll have to pay a fine, but it also tends to be that the person who is wrong, the person who is guilty in criminal law, tends to be someone who goes to jail. Okay, so civil law tends to be that you're going to have to pay some sort of money. Criminal law, there could be jail time. Constitutional law tends to involve what the Constitution means. Now it kind of seems kind of silly. What do you mean? What does the Constitution mean? Doesn't everyone agree? No, they don't. And you know that there are things called Democrats, things that are called Republicans. All of these different political parties have a different idea as to how the government should work, which means that they have a difference of opinion about the type of government and the rules for government created by our Constitution. Constitutional law exists to settle those questions, focusing on what does the Constitution mean, what type of rights do we have, how do we balance between our rights and the needs of society. The rights of the individual and the needs of society is basically a large topic within constitutional law. Juvenile law is exactly what it seems like. It is the type of law that deals with the actions and well-being of people under the age of 18. Yes, it does include if a person under the age of 18 commits a crime, but it also involves just how they're going to be treated by their family, by society. You know, if a person is being abused, God forbid, there could be a juvenile law component to that. Sometimes when, you know, parents get divorced and they're trying to settle custody issues and things of that nature, there's juvenile law things that deal with that. Okay, so that's juvenile law. Typically, just think of people under the age of 18. Finally, military law is exactly what you think it is. It talks about the military. So it involves things like the actions, the conduct of people in the military, when they can and cannot fire their weapon. I know it's kind of weird to think, but yes, there are rules for war, rules as to when a soldier can fight and where and how and things like that. It also deals with their the fact that they need to follow orders. They need to listen to their commanding officers and follow their orders. It also can deal with silly things, or we say silly, but it's not really silly, like their appearance. military law, the United States Code of Military Conduct, or the Uniform Code of Military Conduct, deals with things like how long their hair can be, whether or not they can have facial hair. Obviously, my spectacular beard would not be allowed in the military. They can't have any facial hair hanging off of their face. They have to keep their hair short, men and women. I think women's hair can't go past their shoulder. And so it's things like that. It's just basically the key thing here to realize is that it all has to do with the military. If you're not in the military, you don't have to deal with military law, because military law applies to people in the military. So if you've ever watched the show NCIS, on CBS, the N in NCIS stands for Navy, and that is a show about police and law enforcement dealing with the Navy. Okay, so military law deals specifically with the needs and the actions and conduct of people in the Navy or in the military. And when I say military, I mean the Navy, the Marines, the Army, Air Force, stuff like that. And that's it. This is all of the different types of laws. Pretty simple. So, wrapping this up, the objective here is that you should be able to identify different types of laws. Essentially, what you're going to be asked to do is look at a situation and identify whether this is something dealing with criminal law, civil law, military law, or juvenile law. When there's dealing with money and suing someone, lawsuits, you're talking about civil law. When you're talking about crimes and possibly going to jail, that does tend to be a criminal issue. Constitutional law, your key word there is constitution or rights. Juvenile law, you're talking about people under the age of 18. So if you hear about someone in high school or middle school or a teenager, it tends to be a juvenile law matter. And then finally, you've got military law, which deals with the military. And that's it. This is a really simple thing. I think you got this. If not, just watch this video again. Bye.